These are the most ridiculous plot holes in history. These are the gaps or inconsistencies in a film that'll make you go. So here are 10 of the most ridiculous plot holes from some of your favorite movies. The Eagles from The Lord of the Rings. First up is a classic that we all must have thought about since we were kids. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is indubitably one of the greatest trilogies ever made and is by far more compelling than a lot of the movies we see today. But it does have a funny and even ridiculous plot hole, and this is all focused on the entire point of the movie. You see, the plot of The Lord of the Rings is very simple, and the fellowship of hobbits, elves, dwarves, humans, and a wizard was formed for the sole purpose of delivering the One Ring to the fires of Mordor to stop Sauron once and for all. So the fellows had to travel thousands of miles, tragically disband at some point, some of them got captured, fought wars, and so on. But here's where we run into a problem. At some moments during the story, when things get really tough, Gandalf the Wizard summons an army of giant eagles to get them out of a bind.
The eagles are coming!
So you're telling me that Gandalf had access to giant eagles that were willing to carry them for miles, fight in wars, and even carry Frodo and Sam away from Mordor after the ring gets destroyed. So why did he have the eagles take them all the way from Riverrun to a place closer to Mordor? That way, their quest would have been a lot quicker. Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin is arguably one of the most quirky and campy superhero movies ever made. And even though the movie is riddled with inconsistencies, there was one that made me chuckle so hard, and it all has to do with Freeze.
Pipes.
So throughout the movie, one of the major attributes of Mr. Freeze is that he has to keep his body temperature cool at all times, because if it gets warmer, well, he loses his life. We even see instances throughout the movie where this is the case.
Easy. I'm feeling hot.
I find that unlikely.
What do you say?
So then tell me why in the same movie do we see Mr. Freeze in his lair wearing a bathroom and smoking a lit cigar? How is this possible?
Everything.
Bro has to keep his body temperature cold at all times, and yet bro can smoke an expensive cigar casually. I mean, I know we hear this all the time, but in Mr. Freeze's case, smoking will actually kill him. Not to mention the fact that his wife is half naked in a freezing lair, yet she's fine and all his other henchmen are freezing. I just don't get it. The pictures in Harry Potter. This is probably one of my favorite plot holes in the Harry Potter franchise because when you really think about it, everything makes no sense. In Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Hogwarts faces a terrible danger. A monster goes through the school doing something. And I say something because it's not exactly clear what the monster is supposed to be doing in the school. Is it trying to end people's lives? After all, we know that the monster is a basilisk, a giant snake that ends you when you look into its eyes, yet somehow no one seemed to look it in the eyes except Moaning Myrtle.
I just remember seeing a pair of great big yellow eyes over there by that.
We find out that the victims only saw the basilisk through its reflection, which left them petrified. Yes, but if the objective of the snake is to end lives, why not just eat the people or permanently harm them? But that's not even the crazy part. For a large chunk of the movie, no one knows what the monster looks like because no one has seen it, which is really funny because Hogwarts literally had thousands of moving photos in its halls. So you're telling me not one of those photos saw a giant snake going through the school? The movie also tries to correct this by saying the snake is moving through the school plumbing. If that's the case, then how big are the school pipes? What are you feeding these kids that you need these giant pipes, Dumbledore? Someone help me understand. The police in The Dark Knight Rises. Everyone always has good things to say about the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, but there are a couple plot holes in the third film, The Dark Knight Rises, that make me laugh, like the death of Talia al Ghul.
It's done.
that was terribly bad acting. But what really makes me laugh in the story is the fact that after Bane defeated Batman, they sealed off Gotham City from the rest of the world for 5 months. He also sealed up the entire Gotham police in the sewers so the city would be left defenseless for 5 months. But when Batman returns, he explodes the barricade and all the policemen come out. They're all seemingly fine, clothes looking squeaky clean, not emaciated or anything.
Writing his short story, whether I could take it and write a screenplay from it, and thank goodness he agreed to that and let me do that. So,
but that's not even the best part. The best part is when Batman returns to the city after 5 months, and the first thing he does is line a skyscraper with gasoline so that when it burns, it will show the bat symbol. Which is cool and all, but the thing is, the city is about to get destroyed. When the hell did he have time to do that? Ant-Man's weight. Yet another superhero film that employs questionable logic, and this one is a lot more scientific. In the movie Ant-Man, the Ant-Man suit that Scott wears lets him shrink his size so he becomes infinitesimally small. But there's a caveat.
When you're small, energy's compressed, so you have the force of a 200-pound man behind a fist 1/100 of an inch wide. You're like a bullet.
The gist of all is that when the Ant-Man shrinks, he is only reducing in size. His weight doesn't change, so he has the weight of a 200-pound man while being the size of a bullet. If we're going by that logic, Scott is heavy as hell even when he's small, but yet we see the same Scott riding on ants. We see Scott even running on a gun, and it seems the weight doesn't affect anything. It's the same thing when the Pyms shrink objects like a tank, a lab, and even a house. And then they carry it around like it's no biggie, but it's actually yes biggie. Because if we go with their logic, they shouldn't be able to move any of the things they shrunk. It just doesn't work. Superman 2? I don't know what it is with superhero movies, but there's just always too many plot holes, and no movie has more plot holes than Superman 2. First off, the movie starts with Superman taking a bomb and sending it to space, where it explodes, and it just so happens that the moment of that explosion is when the rectangle carrying Zod and his henchmen conveniently float past Earth. That's a very convenient rectangle. And when the bad guys land on Earth, they get all the abilities of Superman, but somehow a snake can harm them. But the main part that really makes me laugh is the fact that when Superman takes Lois to the Fortress of Solitude, his mom tells him that if he gives up his powers, that they will disappear forever.
All your great powers on Earth will disappear forever.
So he removes his powers, and when he comes out, he has civilian clothes. But then lo and behold, when Clark realizes that the world needs Superman, he walks back to the North Pole and gets his superpowers back with no problem. But I thought she said they were gone forever and that there was no going back. But wait, there's more. When Superman takes Zod and the Kryptonians back to the fortress and reverse engineers the fortress to take away their powers, how come they didn't get civilian clothes? But probably the funniest part of the entire movie is the fact that Clark threw a plastic S at them. What is that? Is that an ability of Superman that we didn't know about? The ability to throw plastic at people?
Convenience. Yeah, well, that's the idea. Slowed you down, I'll say. Ow. Didn't see that coming, did you?
Independence Day virus. We talked a lot about Independence Day and how it was an iconic piece of fiction with a compelling story and fantastic characters. But there's always been a gaping plot hole in the movie that's really odd, and it's the fact that when the aliens show up and start destroying most of the Earth, taking out cities and ending the lives of millions of people, David Levinson, who is Jeff Goldblum's character, just develops a computer virus that will bring down the shields of the alien ship. Now, on paper, that works, but it's obvious that the movie makers had no idea how computer viruses worked. Maybe they thought it was like an actual virus that affects living things, meaning viruses affect all computers. Suffice it to say, the odds of a human spontaneously creating a virus with our own computers that will affect alien computers is next to impossible, especially a virus that is capable of tearing down something as powerful as their shields. I mean, were the aliens using Windows Vista? That he was able to easily upload it to their servers, it just doesn't add up. Madame Web. Yet again, we have another superhero film, and this one is the definition of plot holes. There are not a lot of movies that are worse than Madame Web, but one of the biggest plot holes in the movie is the fact that when Cassandra Webb saves the girls from Ezekiel on the train, she becomes wanted for kidnapping. And sure, that's one way to raise the stakes. But then she leaves the girls and travels to Peru via plane. So you're telling me that a regular person who is wanted for kidnapping got on a plane, traveled to another country, stayed there for some time, got back on the plane, and traveled back to America, and nobody caught her? I mean, her face was literally on the papers, and this movie was set in 2003. Do you have any idea how tough airport security was back in those days? And you're saying a proclaimed kidnapper was able to board flights back and forth from the US with no one catching her? That's just rich guys. There's a lot more plot holes in the movie, but this is the one that just annoyed me the most. Back to the Future. Any movie that has time travel is bound to have a lot of inconsistencies, but no time travel movie has plot holes like Back to the Future. In Back to the Future 1, Marty's dad gets bullied by Biff, his brother has a crappy job, and his sister has trouble dating. Somehow Marty travels back in time and he's in a situation where he has to get his parents together so that he can exist in the future, which is cool. Also, it was a little disturbing watching Marty's mom constantly try to sleep with her own son. Anyway, at some point the Biff of the past tries to forcefully sleep with Marty's mom, and Marty's dad has to step in and help her, and that's how they fall in love. But here's the kicker. Marty goes forward in time, and his family is all better. His dad is now an accomplished author, yet they still live in the same house. His brother has a better job, and yet he still stays at home with his parents. The even bigger plot hole comes when we see Marty now has a better life and a cool car. Yet the Marty that we meet is the same Marty from the previous timeline, so where is the Marty of this new timeline? The McFlys have always had 3 kids, and the Marty we're seeing is not really from this timeline, so where is the other Marty? What happened to him? Well, like a lot of things in Back to the Future, just don't think about it too much. Ghostbusters, 1984. If there's something strange in the neighborhood, it's probably a huge gaping plot hole. The original Ghostbusters was a classic, but there's something we overlooked. It's mostly focused on the fact that the Ghostbusters shouldn't be alive. You see, at the end of the movie, when they finally meet Gozer and Ray dreams up the Marshmallow Man, they cross their proton beams in order to close up the portal, which, by their theory, should have blown up the world, but instead it blew up the top of the building. How in the world did they survive that? How is that even possible? You might say it was the Marshmallow Man, but the Marshmallow Man was literally behind them, so how does this work? There's just no point in thinking about it. And that's all we have for now on our list of ridiculous movie plot holes. What are some of your favorite or least favorite movie plot holes? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos like this one where we talk about movies destined to flop in 2025, check out more videos on Cinema Cascade.